Already in the earlier session, we talked about the use of fuel wood in withering tea. At least in coffee sector, there is a lot of sun drying of is it the coffee beans? Yes. Yeah, so that in particularly in the coffee sector that has taken root. There is a whole elaborate process of drying or rather withering coffee tea, and then the next process is where you have to apply steam, which is part of the process. In coffee, after the beans have been dried, they will be taken to roasting and grinding. We can talk about alternative energy sources for those particular processes. We also saw that the women and youth participation in the coffee and tea sectors is limited. Actually, we saw that the average age in those two sectors is above 50, I think. Yeah. So the group between 20 and 35 is not well represented. Also, women tend to be found participating in the lower cadre functions or processes. They are not involved mainly in the decision making, and there is a lot of male domination in most of the processes. So we need to talk about how we can be able to get the youth and women more involved. Value addition is an area that we have seen as the alternative where we can get the youth more involved. But when we are talking about value addition, what are we really talking about? Which values do we need to add, and in which segments within the coffee and tea sector? So we need to thrash those out. So in this particular, to kick off this discussion, I'm going to just pose this in general. How can we diversify the energy sources in the coffee and tea processes or other production? What can we come up with suggestions that we can be able to, what can we suggest as alternatives to the current energy sources and keep our production still sustainable in line with the green supplement objectives? So we're going to start with that. And I'll let Liki open the discussion. Lerus, please assist me to take notes. I'm also taking.
Thank you very much. And to begin us off, when you talk about alternative energy sources, we are not just talking about alternative energy sources, but essentially we are more interested in energy that is clean and also energy that is cost effective. And maybe from the previous discussion, we've heard that there are those challenges that really affect the adoption of these energy, safe, clean energy technologies in some sectors like tea. What I did not get very clearly is whether that really affects quality, because ideally I feel like it is something that's not an option. And we really have examples of maybe the options that are available, whether you talk about solar energy and other clean sources of energy. And You see, when we talk about solar energy, for instance, it was mentioned that it's quite expensive. But now what makes it expensive? I will imagine that that's what you normally say. It's expensive, yes, but I will imagine what the expensive part is actually the initial cost of installation. Because I think after that, I think in terms of maintenance and all that, it becomes fairly cheap. And given that it is something that could be of interest towards addressing this challenge of the carbon footprint that these particular sectors leave behind, I will imagine that it will not be so much impossible for actually government intervention coming in place in terms of maybe removing, for instance, duty on whether it's importation of such particular equipment for those specific purposes. Also, even elements of maybe some support in terms of grant and all that to those particular cooperatives that want to go that particular route. I also want to look at it from a perspective that we don't have to look at it just from a very narrow way of looking at it, just at the processing or the value addition part. But now when you look at the entire value chain now, from even when you start transportation from the smallholder farms to the factory, from the factory now to maybe even shipping, you see now if they also address the issues of maybe the use of alternative sources of energy that are cheap and clean, you see now overall there will be a reduction in terms of now how much carbon footprint we are leaving behind through these particular value chains. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Liki has covered most of what I wanted to say, but in terms of, I agree with what he has said when it comes to things like solar energy, which are more sustainable when it comes to, for instance, drying of tea and coffee. As he has said, it's a bit expensive in the startup, but it's more sustainable than what other areas or criteria that we've been using.
I don't know, is it possible to also explore, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but to also explore hydropower in all that, because I don't hear it being mentioned. How possible is it from the experts to also explore the use of hydropower? Because, well, I don't know the cost comparison from, between it and the use of solar energy. I don't know who can answer to that. Yeah.
I'm going to try. I'm not pro in it, but I think for solar it's direct use from the sun, and for hydro you'll need water to facilitate the electricity. So they're both natural ways of, Yeah.
Yeah, they're natural, but because you're looking at alternative ways,
Mm-hmm.
is hydro an option as well?
It is an option.
Okay, has it been utilized before?
I'm not coffee and tea. I'm not too sure about that.
And is it an option? Anyway, we can explore that. Yeah.
Doing, I mean, they have small hydropower generation, so you can probably say something about that.
Yes, indeed, KTD has several small hydro plants in areas where there are rivers. But now the issue is there are some elements of tea manufacturing that require biomass. So you can use hydropower to power some elements of a factory, but when it comes to like the boilers, you must use biomass, like now wood fuel. That's where we were discussing in the morning that some we need to find alternative ways of replacing the wood fuel in the boilers. But in terms of using hydropower, you use it. Actually, some factories in Meru, Moranga, and parts of even in Kisii, where they are near a river, factories have come together and they have formed a regional power company, which now produce power for the factories, and excess is sold to KPLC. So you do it. We have HEP in tea manufacturing. The issue is the part of the manufacturing process. The boilers require biomass, which now require wood fuel. So the issue now, I would imagine, is not to find ways of maybe researching how to replace the biomass in that element of the manufacturing. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, on hydro, of course, all of us know that the end game of hydropower is just the normal electricity. Yeah. So, but as we venture in the so-called solar, we must be very careful with solar, because areas where tea is grown have a limited sunshine intensity, and the photovoltaic potential may not be fully harnessed. So the implication that can, or the intuition that can be given is maybe if you're going to have a solar in a place where that is almost semi-arid, so that, and then we transmit it, which is extremely dangerous also. So on alternative sources of clean energy, can we also take an approach to the mechanization approach, the tractors themselves, from tillage to transportation to factories? You realize that we still have a very big gap as far as clean energy is concerned, because you're not touching on it. We are not talking about EV of tractors or EV of something. So if you can venture in that ideology, it can equally be well. However, on the production from the tea professionals, they have said that they really need that biomass. So I will really give them a fair compromise, because we must make compromises also to ensure that we maintain quality. So let us find what we are replacing. And my emphasis will lie on the mechanization aspect of the production, from farming to the transportation of the same, and even from the transportation of the finished product, tea product, to their respective suppliers. Can we find a fair and a cleaner energy, but from the petroleum? Thank you.
What we are hearing here is one vote to another vote to fuel wood in terms of that particular process. Because if we are not able to change energy use in all processes, we can keep the ones that we can be able to change and maintain. I'm coming to you. I'll go to Machogu, then I'll come to you. So that's a suggestion, but let's hear more from the floor.
In regards to energy, we must look for something we have comparative advantage in, that we can produce cheaply. Let me just use the word cheaply. In Kenya, we have the most potential in geothermal energy. Unfortunately for hydroelectricity, we don't have a lot of potential, because since we don't have very big permanent rivers that we can tap to the HEP, but at least there's a very high potential for geothermal, yes. And also maybe I can also ask George in regards to that question. Must we use maybe the wood boilers that use wood as a source of energy, or we can have electric boilers? Is that a possibility?
First, on the issue of geothermal, it's completely unfeasible, because where do we have geothermal plants in Kenya? Naivasha. Is there any tea factory in those areas? There are none. So you need power to be nearby for it to be feasible. So that's why HEP is the only feasible, I can say, power source at this time. As for the issue of electric boilers, I understand there's something we call the flavor. When you use the biomass, there's a flavor. Number one, there's the cost, of course. The cost of wood fuel is much cheaper. You don't want to make it too expensive for us to produce tea, then our tea can't sell. So that cost is number one. Then number two is the issue of the flavor. I understand there's a flavor Kenyan teas have because of the wood fuel, which I don't know if it's possible to maintain if we use something else. That's why maybe we need to some more R&D to see what can actually serve as a replacement. Maybe the briquettes, or maybe some other type of fuel which has not been discovered yet, but which could actually suffice. Yeah, but yeah, it's food for thought. Yeah.
We have a coal being mined in the southern parts of Kitui. Can that be an alternative? That's just a question, and I've just heard of a comparison of Murusik against Mala. You know how Murusik is made.
So my on the alternative use of energy. In an event, hello. If an event that I come to a facility, a tea manufacturing factory, and I request for an environmental management plan. Remember, one of the main product of this facility is emission of gases. There's a massive emission, probably resulting into pollution of the air. So when we come to the vegetation, the eucalyptus, actually, let us not talk much, inakwanga eucalyptus species. One of the interventions, in case of cutting these eucalyptus ligands for the purposes of driving the boilers, to drying the boilers, why don't we have it as a carbon check to this emission? And then secondly, I don't understand how we cannot turn energy, probably electricity, to provide the much heated heat for the boilers. I think there is an alternative. I'm saying this because we are in an era of climate change, and these facilities contribute significantly to the pollution of the environment. Last week, we were in Nakuru at the request of the PS, so that we can find a way, we integrate all sources of pollution. We come up with a common management system so that we can trap all possibilities of environmental pollution in one system at the PS desk. Ili akitaka kujua Kericho, how much do you emit to the environment? NEMA data is just connected to the ministry. How many trees did you plant in Timboroa this year? Akigonga tu hivi, anaona 10,000 from his desk. Why don't we preserve this eucalyptus from cutting so that it can address this carbon sink? And let us focus on how we can mitigate, how we can find an alternative way of driving this. That was my concern.
Thank you, Sam. Go ahead, Alice.
I have an observation. So one of the, I believe, George, an alternative to using firewood for the boilers was the briquettes. But the concern was that briquettes are more expensive to use than the firewood. So I was thinking, because we've had conversations about incentivizing climate smart farming with more fetching a higher prices. That's climate smart farming with a higher price. So how is there a way to incentivize climate smart production as well, that is on the company production level, with also higher prices, or some way, so that it doesn't look like the use of briquettes is too much expensive? There is some sort of a way that when you use briquettes as opposed to firewood, which is going the climate smart way, there's an implication on. There's an incentive. There's an implication on your prices, on your something. I don't know where how we can incentivize that, so that the use of briquettes can really be more adapted to firewood without it having necessary cost implications to production.
Okay, thank you very much. I think what we are saying is there are two things. We want to conserve environment. At the same time, the process of making tea presents us with a limitation. And the limitation is the boiler that needs biomass. It can only be done through biomass. That is what we are hearing. But I think what I'm hearing is in there another alternative of heating the boiler without using biomass? Because if we can sort out that one, then we are open to other sources of energy. And I think that is one thing that the tea people can assist us. Because I actually also think that there is a way of heating the boiler using alternative sources of energy other than the biomass. The briquettes that we are talking about, the way I understand briquettes also comes from trees. Or, I mean, biomass, it can be other things. It can be recycled materials, but I mean, it's almost like a byproduct of something else, and then you convert it to briquettes. But how much is that? You can salvage how much for you to have enough briquettes to run a boiler. So maybe we need the tea people to tell us, is it that there is no other way of heating the boiler other than biomass? If the answer is no, then we are in a problem. If the answer is yes, all these things that we are talking about can be alternative. Electricity can be hydro. It can be from geothermal. But all of it will feed into the national grid. So when it comes like this, you don't know whether it was, it's already mixed. So you cannot, unless you are saying now maybe a particular factory can do their own cogeneration of electricity using maybe a nearby river. But I think all this now goes back to the process of making tea. Is there no other way of heating the boiler other than using biomass?
Actually, Director, before I come to you, Liki, this is actually becoming a tendawili sort of discussion because from what I gathered is that to boil water using electricity is more costlier than it's costlier than using firewood. Yeah. You know, it doesn't make sense, right? Yeah, but this is what we found on the ground. Heating water to get the steam that is required in that process is costlier than using firewood. Now, this is what brings me to this question, and probably George would be in a good position before I come to you. Is firewood worse than gas from a mission point of view? LPG. Is firewood worse than gas in terms of emissions? LPG. So, okay, let's hold that discussion.
I just wanted to add a rider to what Mr. Rotich had mentioned because I will imagine, I have no answer, yes, but I will imagine that, of course, technology has no limit, so I will imagine there has to be an alternative. That's one. Number two, when you talk about firewood being cheaper than any other alternative, are we really, okay, what are the parameters that we are looking at? Because I will imagine then we are just putting in this factor plus this factor, but now there is an environmental factor that we are not putting into the equation so that we know that there's an implication that has a cost effect on the overall cost of actually using the fuel wood as compared to these other alternatives. And lastly, when you talk about now this flavor, I think there is also a need for more research because it will appear like we all believe ile chai umechemshwa na makaa as compared to the tea that's done by that machine is sweeter. So is that the same analogy, or there's something to be beyond that?
So, yes.
Yes, just to make it more elementary. Yes, nature determines how we thrive, and it should, for us to maintain natural equilibrium. Just a very simple question for those who walk across the streets. Have you ever seen maize being roasted by electricity or gas? How many can you see? That's what I'm saying. So as much as the end game is heat, and even when you go to high end, even when you ask these people around here, they tell that they really want to use wood to do any kind of roasting, from beef to whatever they're doing. And from our legal zealot there who said that the flavor. The reason why our tea is loved across the globe is because of the flavor. So what if our secret is that thing we are calling a danger to the environment?
But is it a good flavor or a familiar flavor? You know, there's a difference. Is it a better flavor or just a familiar?
It was first good, and then they became familiar with a good flavor. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
More elementary, like, of course, maybe not so much elementary because it's something that maybe not all of us have experienced it. If you look at countries where they heat their houses, go to countries where we have got winter, the two seasons. Who is using wood fuel? It is no one is using wood fuel, and their forest is all over the place. They are using electricity, either gas or what do you call petroleum, to heat the houses. Why? It is the cost-effective one. If you are going to use wood fuel to heat your house, you cannot even feel the heat. If for you to feel the heat, you will be heating 24 hours. So it can make sense. So I think there is need to maybe do more research on this, so that we are not boxed in a box, or rather we are in a box, that there is no other way of heating a boiler other than biomass. And I think it is actually necessary to do that, especially in this country where we are talking about planting more trees. It is necessary to really do that. And maybe maybe it's a generation of more work by someone. It can actually be work for yourself. Out of this, we give you more work to do that bit of research.
Yeah. So for the purposes of the document, I think what you can summarize is, if you have to use wood fuel, as we do right now, let it be from sustainably sourced plantations. Maybe you replace what you have used, etc., by sustainably sourced plantations. But we explore other means of replacing wood fuel in these areas. But it will require a lot of research because, like I've said, wood fuel right now is the best and most reasonable source of fuel for some elements of the process, the withering, the boilers.
So that we can qualify the source of energy for this production. If we carry out a small analysis, we take fuel wood, we take briquettes. Let us just use briquettes and fuel wood. Then we'll look at what amount of fuel wood can produce what amount of tea or coffee. What amount of fuel can cause what amount of tea? What amount of briquettes? What's the cost of briquettes as at that amount, and how much can it grow? Let us do some cost-benefit analysis to help us qualify an alternative. That was my point.
That's well taken. I think that's basically the research we are talking about. And I don't think we need to belabor on this particular one any further. Yeah? We can agree that at this moment, we seem not to have the best answer for this one. So we need to, as part of this, as part of the document, what we are going to recommend, or rather what we are going to elaborate is the need for the further research on cost-benefit analysis on the use of the available alternatives for, on energy. All right? So we can put that conversation to rest for now, and then we proceed to the next topic, which is women and youth inclusion. Now, in the document, we said that the participation of 70% of the participation of women is found in the lower cadre functions within the sector, and we need more participation. Very few women even own farms, coffee farms, tea farms, so they cannot be members of the cooperatives. They cannot be members of, they cannot participate in decision making, in electing leadership in the coffee management, tea management, because the membership is based on land ownership or farm ownership, yeah, and others. So the conversation here is, how do we encourage more women and youth to participate, to be included in these sectors? I'm going to open that discussion. Start with Alice. Sorry, not Alice, Pauline, sorry.
Thank you. I think the first thing is to first create opportunities for them. That's the first step, because we do not create opportunities. And I think someone said that if you educate a woman, or if you give a woman an opportunity, you've covered the whole society. So the first step is to first create the opportunities for the women and the youth.
Go a bit specific, because there's a whole value chain that we're talking about in the sectors. So where and which opportunities are we talking about here, for instance?
Leadership roles, for instance, tea sector boards, youth representatives, both genders, of course, both male and female. Of course, gender inclusivity in terms of leadership roles. Yeah.
Like we did for women reps. Yeah? Is that the best way to go about this? Because when you create a position, then you almost end up handpicking who is going to. Is it what they want?
I don't want to feel biased, but I believe women make better leaders than men when given the opportunity. I don't, please don't stone me, it is just an opinion, but, and I think we can also see that women are now becoming more open into leadership roles, even in Africa, in terms of presidents. We are opening up, so all we need is the opportunity. Yeah, so I think we can start from there.
Okay, let me just debate you. And I'm doing this so that you can be able to get a focus. Last week, Namibia elected a woman president. 2 years ago, Tanzania got a woman president. In those two instances, which one would you want to go for? In 2 years ago, Tanzania got a woman president, courtesy of the party leadership of CCM, which requires that if the presidential candidate is a male, the deputy must be a woman. Right? Okay? And by bad luck, the president died, and the deputy became president. Okay? That is creating opportunities. In Namibia, a lady decided to offer herself for the presidential leadership for that country. She campaigned and won. So which of those two structures should we go for?
That was a very good debate because I wouldn't, you have a very good point, but I wouldn't go that way. So I will pick Namibia because I wanted to ask you, are you trying to say that there are no, like women and youth are told you do not belong here? They're not given opportunities. Or are we, because I feel like we would talk from a point of encouraging them to take them up. Opportunities I feel are already there. They are there. There's nobody telling women and youth, don't come here, don't vie, don't do this. But it's really more of encouraging them. Please, can you take these roles up? So the Namibia.
The Constitution of Kenya 2010 says what? Provides for 2/3. Yeah? Gender representation. So not a particular gender should not take more than 2/3. It is already provided in the Constitution of Kenya, and the Constitution of Kenya is for the people, by the people.
But is that the case, really?
Now that's where I'm coming. That's where I'm coming to. If the Constitution already provides for that, yeah, are people taking advantage of those provisions? And if they are not taking up, should we force people to take up? I'm just creating a space for discussion, for debate. All right? So that we can be able to identify the key areas where we really need to have women participation. All right? Yes.
Let me go first. I think we should, because I feel like as a society, we've generalized there are things that women can do, and there are things that men can do. So I feel like that is where the problems start. Because if we look at it, how many women vie for presidency in Kenya? Like very few. We get to see very few women. But if we can start from somewhere, maybe by encouraging them, pushing them, saying that this job is not for a man, it doesn't belong to a woman, like both genders can get the work done. We can first start from there.
Maybe just a comment on this. First of all, is that just to say there is a dedicated protocol on women and youth under the CFTA, a complete protocol, which talks about all these things that we are talking about now. So when you're talking about implementation of the CFTA, that one is already there. Now the things that has to be done inside there are things that needs maybe discussion. What exactly do you want? Even under that protocol, what are you saying? So I think those are the things that needs to be, maybe we really need to interrogate further. Number two, when you talk about women in leadership, you know leadership is not just presidency. Leadership goes all the way to the grassroots. Even the village merry-go-round, there is a leader. So in this sector now, coffee and tea, are the women and the youth participating in it? I know the answer is yes. If you go to the tea plantations, whom do you normally see? Women and children. The older man is in the market waiting for bonus. No, I'm not saying that is the truth. But I'm simply saying the people who are in the farms are mainly women and youth and children. Similarly, when you go to the tea plantations and the coffee plantations, so I think the participation of women and youth in this sector is really is really pronounced. But maybe in terms of now leadership at particular levels in the structures that are there. But again, the issue about women being elevated, we are almost about to make a mistake in this country, forgetting about the man, the boy child, until the boy child now is almost extinct. It's actually an endangered species now, if you look at it. It's because of the focus on women, or rather the culture, of course, women are big girls, isn't it? I mean, with a light touch. I normally call when my wife a big girl in the house. So what I'm trying to say is that I think in this sector, we have got participation of women and youth pronounced. But now when you talk about the youth, the ones who have gone to school, they don't want to go to the farm. Even if you wanted to give them space, they still don't want to go to the farm. So what do? We go to the smart farming, the few are in the smart farming. But how many are those? So maybe you need to also, as we look at the participation of women and youth, how do we encourage them to participate in this, maybe through the smart whatever. Otherwise, that is what I basically wanted to mention. Otherwise, having a lady president, tutamuita mama.
Actually, Mr. Rotich has kind of said what I meant to say, but maybe to put it differently, is that when you look at these particular two value chains, we are not saying that women and youth are not involved. Actually, they are. When you look at the total summation in terms of numbers and in terms of even the time, it's actually taken up by youth and women. But what happens is that now when it comes now to the value, now it's where you find that now they get the breadcrumbs, while now wazee wanakula bonus. And what causes that is the fact that one has to do with the production resource, which is land, which is mostly owned by men. And number two, also a lack of opportunities for them to participate in other ways. And maybe just as a recommendation, one, for them to fully participate, of course, we may not have so much to do with the land tenure system, which is biased towards this. But you know, over time, of course, they're also aging, and their natural inheritors are actually women and youth. But now, in the meantime, what can they do to really participate in this? One, there's an element of financing for them to do other aspects, especially when you look at value addition and other processes that happen across the value chains. And then secondly, he has talked about the reluctance of youth participating in agriculture because they find it tedious. So if I can use a term that is commonly used in this sphere is we have to make agriculture sexy. So, and I think technology is one aspect that is key towards actually their involvement, their participation in these particular value chains for them to be actually to reap from their participation, because they are participating, but the value they are getting from that is quite low. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just to pick it from there, when you talk about youth and the future, it must be not that the youth are involved, it must be the future that is involved. And so the question is, what is the future? I know it had been captured as technology. Just to lay emphasis on the same, yeah, that calls for the ambitious youth, because currently, when you look at the projects that the youth are doing, the innovations themselves, like my juniors whom I left in university, they are doing, some are trying to venture into hydroponics, humidity, some are trying to do embedded systems, Internet of Things, of course, outdated. AI, ML, outdated. Extended reality, simulation, all these things. That demands that the government or the authorities thereof conduct a fair benchmark process for these people so that it can be given a fair implementation also within our borders, because the technology is there, and to ensure that we increase enthusiasm of the youth involvement in this is not telling the youth to, I'm not saying we should not go to the farm, yes, but what I'm saying is that the youth must not be, when they grow up, they should not be like their parents, whom we are not blaming right now, but not even complaining. How do we put it? Yeah, the current parents. So we should not have this talk in the 50 years from now. We should be having a talk that the youth came up with technology that did this and this. What is the future of technology? So in the same vein, I will say that the fair implication of different bodies like RCMRD, the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development, if we can, I don't know which ministry is responsible for this, but the ambitious youths in this field can be taken on such centers so they can learn the fairest technologies like GIS, ArcGIS, and different types of software engineering that can engineer agriculture to the future. That brings us also to the engineering of the production process of tea using digital twins, so that you can have a fair, I don't know, you know digital twins. Now when we embed all these things in quantum modeling, mathematics, physics, and computer science, you bring all that knowledge and you paste it in an industry. Smart system, smart production, from farming to production and even to overseas. Thank you.
Yes. So, well, for me, I'm looking at it from a point where it's not that youth and women are not actually involved. It's in the context of the tea and, the tea and the coffee sector, first of all, speaking from for the youth, is not really, even how we brand it, it doesn't really speak for the young person. For example, if you ever see even an advert about tea or coffee, it's always an older person taking a cup of tea, but the younger people are advertised with things like Minute Maid and soda, yes? So we have to first of all start from a point of how we market. And well, I would have wanted us to have the marketing team here also, a representative, but because how we brand something, we're talking about across the value chain. So now that is on the consumer bit. How we brand it to also have a young person, a young perspective, voice represented in it. That would come a long way. We also today talked about the green tea, the purple tea, the hangover tea. Those are so much for the younger generation. How can we make sure that we amplify so much on that? That tea isn't just looked at from the tea, the tea that we drink, because like we mentioned, it needs brewing and there's no young person that has time for all that. So, but when we talk about the hangover tea, the instant tea, for example, the green tea, how can we market that? And how can we really just leverage on the young person to be the one to bring about those other teas? And also when we talk about building capacities now of the new teas, can we push so much more on the younger person to be the one to bring that about? Let the older generation, the one you mentioned, 50s and above, let them now just remain on the normal tea that we drink tea. For the younger generation, let us just focus on the green teas, the hangover teas, and the purple tea, and the iced tea. I feel like iced coffee and all, iced coffee, honestly, it would really, and it looks so fancy, like you say, let's make it sexy. It looks very fancy for a young person. So for me, I'm talking about the marketing and the rebranding of coffee and the tea sectors. It would really pick up the younger generation. Again, to reiterate what you mentioned about, when we talk about the gender aspect, we talk about ownership, control, decision making about these resources like land. Well, honestly, we want our younger people to be involved in the tea farming and coffee farming, but how? They do not have any control or ownership of land. But you know, there are opportunities. For instance, we are now going climate smart, which is going to involve a lot of maybe technological advancements. That is an opportunity to build capacities of the younger people to be the one to cascade that. You know, if we have a bunch of younger people in the communities, they're the ones going to do the training, and there is women and men saying, please come and help me do this, and then they can also earn a living from it. It is not really directly from plucking coffee, but it is still in the production and the growing of coffee, where the young people are the ones disseminating this sort of the climate smart practice that we are talking about, and they can earn a thing or two about that. And then they start getting very interested because they are earning a living, and they're also feeling some sense of, kumbe I'm important. Kumbe I have something to bring to the table, so there is that. I'm still thinking about opportunities to include women, again, because let's remember that in this patriarchal society that we live in, and especially where the coffee and tea is grown, women do not own land. It's owned by men. Men make the decisions, and men control. They benefit from what comes out of the land. But it is the women who carry out the farming. So as we talk about these changes that we want to bring, that brings more burden to the woman, yes or no? Because she's the one who is carrying out the farming. Now I'm talking about on that level of the farmer. You're giving her more work, but she's not going to benefit much from it. So how can we incentivize that to also show that, because when it comes to the bonuses, men will benefit, but it is the woman who got to do all the work. Those are the gender dynamics on the ground. I still don't have a recommendation yet, but put that in your mind and let us discuss about the ways to incentivize that for women to be more involved on that level, producer level, the farmer level.
Pauline?
Maybe just to add on what Alisa said when it comes to the youth, maybe we can also encourage, I think in high school there's a class on agriculture, 4K or, yeah. Maybe we can encourage that more in schools. As my colleague said, he was talking about agriculture being sexy. I don't feel like we encourage a lot of agriculture to the youth, because most of us feel like it's for the old people, you know. So it has to start from somewhere, from school. We know that Kenya is one of the major exporters of tea and coffee in Africa and in the world. So why not encourage young people on that, build more capacity when it comes to the two areas from an early age? Yes.
Right. Eleanox, you have something to add? Okay. That's add, then I comment.
Yes, thank you. Yes, just on the aspect of the branding. Yeah, when I was a young man, I studied civil engineering, structural. It is in my 5th year that I learned that I should have taken a different course. Yeah, so, you see, many young men, when you look at the report by the Employability Authority, they're saying that they fancy a job for young men. You look at how, I'm not saying our farmers are not packaging themselves so well, but yes, you meet them with gumboot and overall all the time, and they want to speak in mother tongue throughout. So, you see, we say that he who pays the piper calls the tune, right? Yes, so it must be inborn. Myself, I could have taken music or a different course, but the way I thought engineers package themselves, I took engineering. I'm not regretting, but yes. So this thing must come out that we must encourage our farmers themselves also to ensure the future of what they love thrives. Let them also bring a very good brandishing effect to the farming approach. Yeah, so they can hold very compelling summits, very fair conferences, call the youth like this, address them in such a setup, tell them and speak to them about the existing and contemporary issues of farming. Before you realize it, comrades are changing their courses to agricultural engineering. That's the end game. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So I've just seen, okay, on our strategy that says that 70% of labor is being provided by women and youth in coffee and tea sectors. So maybe an additional point on how we can encourage them to participate in these sectors, we find that most times, especially youth and women, when they do their labor in the tea and coffee farms, sometimes they're paid very low wages, and that's what discourages them. That's why you find that sometimes youths just leave the farms and go to urban areas to seek for jobs that can give them money. So I think another way is increasing payment to youth and women while working in the farms. So that will encourage them to work more on the farms and yes, continue providing labor.
Thank you very much. You know, this is a very interesting debate, especially when you're debating with the people who are the affected lot. I think I agree with all the comments that you've made. That's why I was saying, how do we encourage now these people to do smart farming? Smart farming is basically what you were saying. And I was actually like, can we see the application of this in the farm? How do we see that? Because I like the things that you are saying. I'm actually a promoter of these young people, but I always get disappointed. They have the ideas like that, but they never put it to use. Give them the opportunity to implement today, tomorrow, the third day, they abandoned it because they want to see money now, not tomorrow. So that discourages everyone else. The ideas are there, like you are a structural engineer, but you can see already you have got ideas to do with the coffee and the tea sector. But now, in terms of putting now into use, it becomes frustrating because I think the young people don't have patience. Not like the guy who is wearing the kaput and the gumboots. They want money now. That's the most frustrating thing. Now, the other thing that I think maybe needs to be assisted these people is that they could be having ideas, but in terms of the resources to put them into use, money, they don't have them. Where can they get the money to use to implement some of these things? They have got brilliant ideas. Some of them, they have no opportunity in terms of where is the finances. They don't get it. So if they get it, they can do that. Even the land itself. By the way, if you really sit down and calculate, the farm is where there's a lot of money. You can't exhaust money that is coming from the farm. And it's almost all weather. It's about, during the COVID, the only sector that was alive is the farm. Everything else, the aircrafts were grounded, the Mercedes and the FX were turned into kiosks, Akuza, Sukuma. So everything collapsed into the farm. So if we can encourage the young people to use now the ideas that they have to do the smart farming, give them the opportunity in terms of the finances and maybe even the farms to do that, they can actually make a difference. But now in this document that we are, how do we bring how do we make that into use by these young people? When you talk about the different types of tea, and I think maybe that one you will discuss during the value addition. If you look at the iced tea, where the young men, I know them because I have young men in the house, iced tea. That's what they want. They don't want to wait for this one. You are boiling for another 30 minutes. The iced tea, you drink and go. The iced coffee, I've not seen iced coffee, but I've seen iced tea, iced cocoa, iced everything else. So the value addition which actually will attract the young people, is something that we need to go into. I saw the West Africans, Ghana in particular, they have got different range of products from cocoa. They have got the ice ready to drink. You just go to some market, you buy, and then you drink, like the Milo you are boiling. You also have got cubes in terms of cocoa. You just buy and continue. Can we make the same for tea? Can we make the same for coffee? And that is actually targeting the young people. I don't think someone who is over 60 can buy iced tea or the cubes that I'm talking about. But these young people can do that. So can we also encourage them in this to do that? Do the value addition at the same time, go into farming. If there is a compelling, what can I say, motivation from you, someone will get money to put into use.
Machogu, before you go, you say your remarks. Already the conversation has already moved into value addition. So I'm not going to stop the flow, into that direction. So as you contribute to youth and women participation, it's okay to go into value addition.
Thank you. In regards to value addition, I'll say that presents the most potential for creating sustainable jobs for youths and women. And let me add people with disability. I think we had forgotten that, because that inclusivity should be holistic. And because of the land tenure system, most of the land in our country, unfortunately, is owned by our parents who are old men. But there exist a lot of opportunities for value addition in the coffee and tea industry. For example, if you go to even to major cities, most of the baristas are young people. Yeah, that's another area, and it's a sustainable job, especially with the increased consumption of coffee. The other one, young people can play a very pivotal role in sensitization and also capacity building, and they can leverage social media. You'll find that most of the young people, we spend a lot of time maybe in social media, maybe X, maybe Twitter. It can be a very good platform to sensitize other youths to uptake value addition opportunities. Yes, and also it also becomes a source of income, because you also get income through social media platforms, especially through adverts. Then the other area, maybe to sum up, is on logistics, especially in regards to distribution of tea and coffee to other areas within the country. It's an area maybe that they can also do very well using modern technological method. For example, it may not be feasible right now, but Amazon is using drones to deliver products to homesteads, something that young people are very good at, tech. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Machogo, for that. I think we have come to realization that we might not be able to change the cultural land tenure system. All right? Let's agree that that might take another century to change, right? From the time immemorial, land has always been moving from the father to sons, like that. Right now, daughters are included, okay? Yeah? No. So, with that limited transition from movement from the father to sons and the daughters, for participation, women ownership of land, especially in these particular areas, might take another 50 to 100 years for us to see that. So, value addition, and I know that Licky will tell us there is a strategy for the Ministry of Agriculture on value addition, isn't it? Yeah, I know sometimes back there was another one, a campaign to make agriculture sexy. I don't know whether it was being done by FAO or it was African Development Bank. Yeah, and if you have noticed, the use of the old men and women photos in agriculture-related booklets or publications more or less has stopped. Now you see young people being featured. That is actually that part of that strategy, right? Now, I wanted to ask someone here. Yes? No, that is now where we are talking. That's where value addition is coming.
No, the issue about cultural, men are the ones who own land and ladies are not supposed to own land. You know, they have taken that to be also an excuse. Where are the ladies who has money buying land? You have money. I mean, Wanjiru, you have money. Have you even thought of buying land? No, you don't need 50 acres. We need even the tea guys, they have got half an acre. The KTDA, the people who exported tea to Accra the other day, it was from half an acre, 1 acre, consolidated by KTDA. So must you own land? Why can you hire? Why can you rent for 15 years? Is it difficult? Even the guy who's saying, I own land, it is not your land, it's for your grandfather, the man. So I think it is an excuse. So you want to do farming, you can hire land. I see people hiring land even for 20 years and put eucalyptus trees. Many of those are happening. So I think we don't, that excuse of women are not owners of land, I don't buy that. It's not valid. It used to be, but now, not anymore. Or maybe for another reason, not for farming. Yeah.
Right. Good afternoon. I'll speak into the value addition because that's what was introduced. And I'm also looking at what is the packaging of this tea that we are having, or coffee. Sometimes you look at the packaging and you're like, it's not even calling the name. So it's good to, make it a bit appealing to everyone. And there's also, the other day I went to the supermarket, I found a cake that was coffee flavored. Now you see, bringing the coffee to the cake, and that's where the youth, the younger generation will be. Once they see coffee cake, already coffee is in there. And the other area I see is areas of competition in these two areas through the media. There can be quizzes and all that, so that at least there's something, and a token to have these people participate and get the knowledge of the tea and the coffee. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Actually, while we are on that, I wanted to ask someone, one of these young guys here. Let me just use my list. Kai, who is Kai? Kai, I consider you a young man, Gen Z particularly. Tell me, how would you feel to feature in an advert to promote tea?
Thank you. Maybe a photo?
How do you feel? Tell me, how do you feel to be part of an advert to promote tea?
Very proud.
Vis-a-vis soda.
Vis-a-vis soda.
Or vis-a-vis your usual tea.
Gen Z. Okay, if you ask for about soda and coffee, I think for our young generation, we'll go for soda because it's what they normally take. But if we come back to our homeland, if we want to promote our tea factory, then I think I'll be more proud because soda is not produced in our country. They just imported the product and do that.
Let me hear you. Your name is? Lawrence. That's Lawrence. What will make you feel comfortable to participate in tea or coffee promotion? How would it be important for you to take part, to appreciate, to be proud of participating in that promotion as a young man?
Personally,
I'll be very proud to be part of the advertisement because one, it will make you popular, and the popularity will also open for you more opportunities. Yeah.
Let me hear from you. You are
Mason. No, I'm from the SDT.
What would make you feel, I mean, how would you feel to be part? I mean, what would you want to see for you to be part of promoting coffee or tea?
I'll feel good when I promote coffee and like tea, because number one, tea is cheap. Yeah, I would like to promote something which is cheap. And also number two, coffee is about is bougie. Yeah, so it will make me feel nice. Yeah.
Would that be the reason why you don't take more coffee, more tea?
I think it's all about stereotyping of tea. Tea is all about for the old, and coffee, yeah, it's for chilling.
Are you hearing this conversation? Are you getting what I'm driving at? Yeah? Let me hear this. Let me hear from this young lady.
Okay, personally, I'll be proud to promote tea because I'm a tea lover and I know the effect it has on me. So when I'm put on an advert about tea, I'll be able to pass out the info of the feeling I get after taking tea. And so it will entice more people to take tea.
You love the effects of tea on you. I think I've not exhausted the list of young people. Actually, most of you are seated here. And I don't consider you an old man. Yeah,
Tea is associated with all men. Because most adverts you'll realize that it is all men who like post taking tea. And when it comes to soft drinks like Stony Tangawizi, the masculinity, it goes with the young men and all that. So the stereotyping where if you take soda like Stony, you become more strong and all that. Yeah. So it has to do with stereotyping and advertisement.
Personally, I wouldn't mind being part of an advert with tea. I personally coming from Western, yeah, I'm trying to be honest. I personally coming from Western, we believe in tea. So I wouldn't mind being part of an advert because I'll be proud of that, yeah. And at the same time also coffee. Coffee is classy and it's meant for, there's a class, yeah, and there's a class that are meant for coffee. It's not for everyone in a per se. So me being part of that advert, I will be putting myself in that class. I think so, yeah.
the young man from SDT.
Okay. I'll prefer to market coffee than tea, but personally I'll go for who is paying me more to advertise.
I like that. I like that. Where is Diana? Diana's left? It's okay. Right. So you've noticed the direction I just took with this conversation, all right? So it's about, and as we say, the packaging of coffee and tea. That's making it a difficult sell to the young people, right? But we are still talking about value addition. When you look at the document actually highlights quite a number of derivatives, especially for tea. Yeah? Tea can, we can be able to get a lot of things out of tea, not just the tea we drink. Yeah? And the iced tea. Yeah? We can be able to get cosmetics. We can be able to get, what do you call them? Supplements. Yeah? Especially those two areas. Now, how can we be able to encourage the same people who are not participating adequately in the sectors to take advantage of these opportunities in the value chain or in the value addition? Yeah? So that becomes now the question that we need to discuss. Right? And I'll start with you. Who was the mic? Okay, so we start with
Thank you very much. Yes, I believe the requirement that I'm required to deliver is how do we encourage this? Of course, as you have said, it's all about the packaging approach that we give tea and coffee. That's what matters. So to ensure that this thing thrives and percolates to all cadres of people, yes. Just as a small case study, when you go to the village, yeah, everybody takes tea, yes. And when you come to the capital or in the high-end restaurant, it is very shameful to go to a high-end restaurant and take tea. Even if you want to take tea, you'll be compelled to take coffee instead. In fact, when you take coffee, you speak in English. You take tea, you say that, can you go for a coffee? But you say, twende tukunywe chai. Yes. Without any age difference. Even old people do that. Yes. So the value addition must come from, just to avoid redundancy, yeah, must come from the packages that we are giving it to ensure that it thrives. So let me package my statement also well so that I don't also ruin it.
Well, for me, one of the opportunities I would really recommend is one, you mentioned we do not have to own land to be able to do farming. So to encourage more women into the farming, I would encourage women groups, they pool resources, then they lease a land. Then I would have capacity building for those. So it would incentivize a lot of women into that. I feel like, in a nutshell, I would do that. That's a recommendation I would, that's one of the ways I would do. One, encouraging many women to come together, pull resources, then they have land. Then they register it as, no, well, they can't because it's leased, but well, it's managed by them. Then I have programs where I only build capacities of those women that are in those small organizations where they are running the farms.
I think for me, in light of what we are seeking to achieve in this particular strategy, you see now when you talk about issues to do with conservation and all that, of course it's a bitter and painful process. And there has to be some incentive for the doer to do that. And I will imagine that even for that coffee farmer or tea farmer, what will be there in it for them beyond those unseen benefits? Because I would imagine when you talk about global warming and all that, at a personal level, you may not really appreciate that. So what is this immediate that this person will see and appreciate so that he may have the energy to do that, what they are supposed to do to accrue the bigger benefit? And what comes to mind is what you mentioned about aspects of specialty products, like we have, say, organic coffee that might fetch a higher price compared to conventional coffee. that for that particular farmer, maybe they will have avoided going that route of using the inorganic or the chemical fertilizer because of the value that they see in terms of when they market this coffee, they get a higher price compared to maybe what the other farmer who is doing the conventional way is realizes. So for me, I think it is that's the best way to give incentive to these particular farmers to work towards ensuring that there's sustainability of the environment and all that. Thank you.
Thanks. For me, I'm still going to insist on education and skill development when it comes to the sector. I still feel like we do not push agriculture as much, even with that campaign from African Bank Development. To be honest, as a young person, I did not hear about it, so it means that there's still work to do when it comes to those sectors. We'll also talk about branding, as my colleagues mentioned. How we brand our tea, as Lennox said. Coffee looks a bit more, like I'm going to have coffee. Sini kukunywa chai, you know? So, and in most cases, even coffee looks better than tea. How they package it, there are different varieties like cappuccino, sijui mocha, what. But for tea, like, it's just ni chai tu, ni maji na maziwa. So yeah, there's still work to do there, and maybe we can use young people for creativity to come up with different names. Si chai tu, ama tangawizi tea. Tangawizi tea, it's just tangawizi tea, you know? So maybe we can encourage young people and give them opportunities when it comes to creativity, even in these sectors.
Yeah, I've never heard of somebody say, let's go for a tea date. So that actually says a lot. Yeah? Now, guys, in the next, before I give you the mic, in the next 15 minutes, I think now it's 4:30. We need to finish at 4:45. Yeah? Then we break for tea and go home. So, sorry, yeah, we break. Okay, we break for coffee and okay, we break for coffee and tea, and then from there you can go home. Okay, all right, Director, we'll have you speak. Then we'll have a few comments. Then Solomon, you can make a comment. Mukhtar, you fine? Okay, so then you can close.
Yeah, just one. I'm hearing the young people talking about coffee. But is that a reality when you go out and see how many Kenyans do take tea and how many Kenyans do take coffee? The consumption of coffee in this country and the consumption of tea. Whoever has done some little bit of research, how is it?
From my own observation as a young person, most young people take coffee.
Okay, leave it at that. Now I come back to consultant. No, she said already, chai na masiwa. She said already. But in terms of the actual numbers, tea is taken more, isn't it? And then number two, we have got more young people in this country. Do we have more young people than older people in this country? And they are still not taking coffee. So it is a story. Isn't it? I see Pauline taking tea. I'm sharing the same office with Pauline. Reality is there are more tea takers in Kenya than coffee. Anything that we do, we are going for coffee break. You heard Mwalimu saying. Even in the program, tea break. So everything is about tea in this country. even me, from the young age, you rather deny me food, but not tea. From a young age, not that because I'm older now. So that is something that we need to do. Maybe do we need to also popularize coffee using the young people? Because I think that we can create domestic demand in this country for coffee. Even before we talk about selling outside, we can already create demand. So we need to do that. Going to now the variety of tea, sio chai na maziwa too, iced tea. Why can't we do it? Tea board. What is the difficulty? The iced tea that we have in the Kenyan market is from, did I see from Pakistan or Sri Lanka? Somewhere far away. What happens when we have one of the leading producers of tea? Is it difficult to make iced tea? I'm asking now the tea board. And you can see whether there is market for iced tea in this country and in the neighborhood. Is it difficult? Those are things that we need to maybe ask ourselves. So that we actually, in this document, we should be coming up with things that we can already do as a matter of implementing, rather enhancing the implementation of the CFTA strategy. If you go to West Africa right now, the tea that is there is from Holland, is from Poland, is from the US, from Brussels or wherever, not from within here. Why? These are the things that maybe needs to be captured in this document.
Thank you, Director. Now, since we are coming to a close, I'm going to start from the end. One comment each as we go to finish. So we are going to start with you, Melvin. Your final comment?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, and for my final comment is I can't just to see how what you have said today being incorporated in the document.
Very well. Your final comment? Either on value addition, inclusion of women and youth, energy, earlier ones, capacity building.
From the earlier ones, I learned that certification, even though it's voluntary, it's very necessary.
Okay, from my observation or recommendation today, I've learned that women and youth should be included in the market. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Your comment?
Today's discussion has been so good, and I really wish for us to insist on energy. That's where our country, our people suffer a lot when it comes to cost.
I did not ask you the question. Coffee or tea, which would you rather promote?
For me, I'll go for coffee because my community back in Western is trying to adopt coffee farming. Yeah.
My final thought, I think, is to go to capacity building. As far as we are doing the coffee farming, but I think the awareness to the benefit that we get from the coffee factory for coffee farming is not yet there. Thank you.
The session has been so interactive and educative. And my final comment is that we as the youth, being that we are more exposed to technology, we should chip in agriculture using the technology for better advancements in agriculture. Thank you.
Yeah, so my final comment is there's high need of sensitization for the youths and women when it comes to agriculture. Because from the comments I've heard from the youths, in the near future, tea is going to be on a decline. So a lot of sensitization has to be done for us to maintain the tea production in Kenya. Yeah.
Right. I think that a statement is very ominous for the tea sector. If you go to that, because it's old men and women who are taking tea, the youth are not taking. It means when the old men have expired, then there are no more drinkers of tea.
Okay. When it comes to women and youth, I think women should not only be used on the farms to do the hard work, they should also be given opportunity to be the landowners and be included in more training concerning agriculture.
I think the discussions around inclusion of women and youth, I would urge that we leverage on the protocol on women and youth in trade, the AfCFTA protocol, because I think in that protocol there are obligations for this AfCFTA state parties to facilitate things like digital trade, protection from harassment, access to finance for women and youth, and so many other things. So all these issues that we've discussed around women and youth, we can leverage on that. And maybe to answer director's question, why tea? It's because coffee is an acquired taste, so people prefer tea because you can relate.
I'll pick up from where my colleague left over. I think tea is an evergreen drink. My brother said it's going out of fashion. I don't think tea will ever go out of fashion. I think it's one of those things which is an institution. The young people now become old men and they'll take up the drinking of tea. But anyway, in terms of my final comments, on value addition, you heard in the morning that we have been having an increase in the tea production. We have more tea in the market, which means more supply, and so the prices have gone down. By adding value, by having more products made from tea, whether it's wine, whether it's supplements, whether it's cosmetics, we increase the output, and therefore you don't have to depend on the sale of processed tea. So validation is something which we should actually put in consideration, and in the document it should appear prominently because it's a huge element. Otherwise, thank you for the discussion.
Yes, thank you. Let me somewhat echo what my friend George just said. I think the value addition, especially in regards to derivatives, it's a high potential area, especially having, for example, yogurt with coffee flavor, maybe yogurt maybe with some tea flavors. Yes. I was also flabbergasted knowing that there is also wine made from tea. Yes. Yeah. So these are areas that maybe we can leverage it on, not only to create sustainable jobs for young people and women, and also people living with disabilities, but also to enhance intra-regional trade with other African countries, and also it can also be an avenue to boost our foreign exchange. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I will talk on or move on. Okay, what George has said on value addition. Maybe one more value addition. I think on tea, I think we still need to do a lot of creating awareness of the superior quality tea we have in Kenya. I think we have the best tea in the world, and sometimes there is no much visibility in the international markets. And I think we still need to do more in terms of publicity, because I know we have superior quality tea in the region. So creating of more awareness of quality tea.
My comment today is that the discussions were insightful and eye-opening, and I'm glad to be part of it. But could we say that the fact that most people take tea, it's because of our upbringing? Yeah, I feel like most household, we have grown up taking tea for most of our lives. Yeah, thank you. Which one? Between coffee and tea? Coffee, because I feel it's more cool. I don't know.
That's the question. Thank you, and I'm glad that I made it. To follow on what Diana has said, there's no fear of tea not being, well, the old people getting out of the picture and then tea is not. Look at homes. Many people in the homes take tea. Many people in offices take tea. For meetings, tea is served and coffee is brought as an alternative by choice. So I would say, and tea is more affordable. So tea is not at any risk. In fact, I fear for coffee. And then I would say this issue of gender, women, and all that, shall we just say we speak of gender and we have sensitization intention of existing opportunities for gender, which can be male, it can be female, it can be youth, it can be people living. As in, we do not just say women. And I echo the director that honestly, at this rate, the male gender is a little bit endangered. So let's also be very conscious when we're doing these things. Thank you.
Thank you. The discussions have been insightful. Something has also come into my mind. I'm just thinking, what if in the next discussions or meetings, what if we invite maybe some farmers in the tea and coffee sectors in different areas when it comes to discussions like women, youth, for just to analyze whatever it is that we've been discussing, because I feel like we cannot be discussing about women and farmers and there's really no representation. Like, I don't think we can relate from our standpoint. I think it will be essential as well to go to the grassroots areas for us to get actual information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, to respond to that, we were supposed to have those sensitization, but I think because of time, we are not able to. I think they're happening from next week. Yeah. Yes.
I think for me, what sticks to mind is that changing landscape in terms of ecological changes that are resulting in a shift from, say, you find that a previously too growing area is now, they are moving towards coffee. And, my thinking is, for a fact, that will mean that in the next few years, then that same place will be unsuitable for that coffee, and now we go to something else. And considering that and the fact that actually when you look at tea, is actually our #1 export. I think coffee also comes somewhere around #4 down there. So they are very critical to our economy. And that means for this strategy, then it means that we have to, once it's validated and it's official, I think we need to hit the ground running in terms of implementing and ensuring that all these good things that we're talking about are happening down there, so that the soonest we can be able to realize the benefits and actually be able even to address now other issues that may emanate from that. Like now when you had a discussion about the EUDR, of course, some of these mechanisms will address some of those challenges that we're talking about in the near future. Thank you.
For me, yes, well, like Susan, I would also wonder, from our previous conversation we had we had talked about looking at the gender aspect, not just as women and youth, but also involving men, because the intersectionality, the intersecting differences of different men will also disadvantage or advantage them differently. So I was thinking we would look at it from a broader perspective, not just women and youth. And I've also, my takeaway is, and I believe we can also feel that, it's very easy to come up with a plan or a strategy, but you see, when it comes to the implementation bit, now going to the communities, the asking of how, that becomes very technical and very challenging. Yes, we need to involve men and youth, women, but when we ask how, it gets very hard for us to actually contextualize this. So what that means is, our implementation, the strategy has to be very community-centered, very contextualized to what our communities look like. And I've also noticed that it's very hard to bring up a new venture unless you're incentivizing people. So that's just on a very light note.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Yes, also in the epilogue, I think it is prudent to put it that, we need to really tell people what is it in tea that will provoke them to take tea. For instance, when you go to my village, the lake city of Kisumu, we know that fish has omega-3. Everybody knows fish has omega-3, even my grandmother. And that the result that omega-3 is to magnify the intellectual rationality and to expand the intelligence quotient of the consumer. So if you can really bring out what is in tea that makes it appear that way. So as a Shakespeare-holic enthusiast, William Shakespeare argues in his masterpiece, The Hamlet, when Polonius warns his son Laertes of advancement of different kind of things, that whatever is new may not be advanced, and whatever is advanced may not always be new. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's hear Suleiman, and then Director, you can close the day for us.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I think I will not venture into this discussion, tea versus coffee, mainly because usually in the morning I'm more tea, and in the afternoon, in the morning I'm more coffee, and in the afternoon I'm more tea. So, yeah, but listening to you guys now, I understand why. Probably because in the afternoon I grow older. So on a more serious note, I think that we did the right call actually by targeting coffee and tea value chains when developing this green supplement to the national AfCFTA strategy of Kenya. Because I can see there is a lot of rich and interesting conversation, and this sector are thriving. Hopefully they will continue to thrive, providing forex for the economy and also providing jobs essentially for Kenyans. So listening also to the discussion, I think we get a lot of insight into this value addition, and I'm sure, Daniel, you will make the needful in bringing up all these issues into the strategy so that we have a robust policy document. Yeah, I think for today it was really a very enlightening day, and let's hope this trend will continue tomorrow. Thank you.
At this juncture, I request the panelists so we can take our seats. And thank you for your contribution. It's been wonderful. A round of clap. Great. Right. So, Director.
Okay, I must say that I've been in this business for a long time, but this was extremely interesting. I learned so many things about even the things that we do without necessarily knowing why and how. Even where's the Shakespeare? The Shakespeare guy, I read Shakespeare during my days, but you reminded me, and you sort of raised my appetite to go back and read again. But the tea board and the coffee board, if you are in the room, I'm sure you are listening. There are certain things that we do subconsciously which affect the acceptability of our products. So when we go back, let us relook at those ones so that we can capture their imaginations and the reality. I'm imagining I'm taking coffee, but I'm actually taking tea. So how can you marry the two and come up with, we capture everyone. So that we don't, we are not young in the morning, coffee, in the afternoon we are older, we're taking tea. And by the way, tea is a unifying factor. I call people to my house, come we take tea. But when they come, they start by eating a goat, wanakula nyama, wanakula ugali, hakuna chai It was about coming to take tea, but tea inakuja the last thing in the evening. So it is actually a unifying factor. But now, if you want to also make coffee to be like that, so that you can also market coffee in Kenya, so that we can create domestic demand, as I said. We can actually create a lot of domestic demand. If you can make me drink 2 cups of coffee, because I take even 10 cups of tea every day. You can make me take 2 cups of coffee and you multiply by the number of Kenyans who are there. How many are those? Yeah, I'm sure you are listening. So colleagues, I think we have been, this has been a very useful day, very enlightening. You can see already it's going to past the time, but no one is in a hurry. So I want to thank everyone, and I want to wish you a pleasant evening. We meet tomorrow at 9. As we want to hear also from T-Board, I asked that question, which has not been answered. What is the difficulty in making iced tea? And we saw the GNC, the way they were flooding the streets. Imagine the GNC taking iced tea, all of those guys. We need an answer tomorrow. I need an answer tomorrow. The last thing, Walimu, can we get that high-grade tea sample tomorrow? Get us a sample. We'll pay for it, please. We want to see. If you can. Iko sawa. Chonjo. Aye. Otherwise, colleagues, I want to maybe say that we can break for today. We meet tomorrow at at 9. Then we can proceed with tomorrow's activity. But I'm told Susan is going to close without a prayer. Susan, you didn't even say where you come from. Where you come from.
Can you remember? All right. I am Susan Ongalo, and I'm from the tourism industry, Kenya Tourism Federation. And that is where we consume both tea and coffee, and coffee cake, and I have not seen tea cake. So I'm supposed to pray, but I'll do it a bit differently. May we rise up, all of us. Like us to, and I need a prop. Who do I use? I need a tall person. Please come. Tall gentleman. But the one that's coming. I need us to, with our bodies, we spell tea and then we spell coffee. And then we check which was more tougher than which one. So we'll start with tea, with your body, of course. This way. Create an E with your body. And then an A with your body. Let's all start. Okay, T, E, A. At T. Now we go to the other one, coffee. Start with C, O, double F, double E. All right, let's start coffee again. C, E, my prop. Sorry, O. Okay, F. Okay, and then E. Right, now